Hello and happy Catterday. Welcome to Occult Priestess's Rockfin channel. It's nice to see you guys in the chat tonight. I'd like to say hello to Tim O'Keefe, and you might see Tim O'Keefe over here in the chat on the screen. So I'm working with OBS, and this is very new to me, and I got the sweaty palms back. I'm nervous again. I was fine. I learned StreamYard no problem, but now I'm back to doing something more unique, more personalized, so that I can express myself. And so I'd like to know if everything is working over there in the chat. We have a great show for you tonight. I'm very excited to bring it to you. So if there's no feedback, then I'm going to go ahead and check my sound. I heard myself. Okay, great. So, one big thing did happen in my life this week. Um, my favorite artist of all time since I was a teenager, the goddess of rock and roll and the rightful queen of England, Kate Bush, blew up the world. And I'm going to do uh, a presentation about that. It's just very personal to me, and I'm nervous even getting started on it. So, but I'm so excited. Yay, Kate Bush. Woo, she totally deserves it. And she went like stellar on Prince's birthday. And I was like, because Prince is quoted saying, Kate Bush is my favorite person. And so that happened on his birthday. And I think that was kind of like a little gift from Prince, if you will. So, hello, everyone out there in the chat. Please thumbs up and like. And if there's nothing for me to interact with, then I'm just going to get started with the show. So, some of you will know Mark Passio's work, and it's very exciting if you actually don't know Mark Passio's work because he's a classic. He's still very, very active in on what on earth is happening.com, and you're going to hear all about this tonight. So, for some of you, I'm introducing you to Mark Passio. So, I made a little video to show you before the main event. So, this is the opening act, if you will. And in this opening act, I tell you how this live stream came about. So, without further delay, let's see if this works. Number one, make yourself small. It's like a spell. Make yourself small. Number one. Okay. Number two, turn on desktop audio. Hi, Claire. Thank you for coming. You came just in time. It's really great to see you. Mwah. Where's the camera? Hi. Mwah. I have a whole new setup. Everything's crazy. I'm in OBS, but I'm doing it. It's working. It's happening. So we're going to start with a little story of how this live stream came about. Hello, happy Catterday, and welcome to Occult Priestesses' first OBS gaming live stream with community chat on the screen. The point of streaming is to slow down and allow and just do, which means I gotta be quiet once in a while. Who wants to talk straight for 2 hours? Don't say it. Well, that reminds.
I guess it is kind of funny.
Say, that reminds me.
Say, that reminds me. I did get permission. I sought and attained permission to show Mark Passio his new age bullshit. What we're going to do is do a watch along together live. I'm going to edit new age bullshit. We're going to do like a whoop, 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 remix. And there's so much information. And so I think it's base, boom, boom, base information. If you don't have that base information, then I don't know what you're doing. You need the form. To have form, you must have foundation. And this is the foundation. Big part of it is Mark Passio, dude. So I did get permission from him because I was going to do it. I was just set up, just like, I only have so much time to edit this video. If I'm not gaming this weekend, I got to get this out. And I don't have Mark's number. I don't have a way to get a hold of Mark Passio. So he's a big guy. And so I texted Lenny. I was like, hey, Lenny, you know Mark Passio. But I ended up going to Mark Passio's Facebook, like whatonearthishappening.com Facebook, and asked right there in public in front of everyone, hey, Mark, not expecting an answer. But within 8 hours, he's like, dude, you don't have to ask permission. Go ahead. I was like, oh my God. But my point is, if there's one person you don't want pissed off at you, it's Mark Passio, right? I would never want Mark Passio pissed at me. So
or I'm going to put a movie on. I'll throw, a Harry Potter film on or something. I'll watch an allegorical film or something to just wind down and relax. Nobody should be without something like that, because you will go insane if you only 100% dedicate your focus to one thing. You got to have some levels of enjoyment and downtime, right? And something that is light, and that you don't constantly put your mind in one perpetual circle. First of all, that is the basis of community, right? Community is like, what is the essence of all of the people that form this dynamic? You could call it a group, but we're calling it simply a community. Are they really spending their time to enact the solution that everybody really wants? That's the great work. That's moral education. If I look at any group that I'm involved in, I'm one of, if not the only moral educator present. I could ask every single person at the entire group or meetup, are you doing any aspect of this work? No, I do this type of activism. No, I'm involved in survivalism. No, I'm a gun rights guy. No, I'm out growing because I'm expecting the food apocalypse, and I just only want to focus on farming. Practice those crafts. But if your craft isn't in the great work, if your craft isn't in moral education, you are playing the game to lose. Every single person is playing some aspect of the game to lose instead of truly morally educate. If we're not truly morally educating, we're playing to lose. And I'm going to keep bringing up this dynamic. Yes, go ahead, Bill.
I would never want Mark Passio pissed at me. Okay, so that is the story of... That is the story of how this came about. So I think I just fixed that echo, guys. If you could check that for me, that would be super fabulous. But I got so excited to see that Claire had been in the chat, and then Ian had come along, and I was like, oh, flustered, and I forgot to hit a button. So it happens. Does that say alien? Do I sound like an echoing alien? I don't know that word. What are you saying, Ian? Oh, we're good. Okay. Thumbs up. Perfect audio. Thank you, darling. I've got a crazy echo in my head, which is wild. I hope we get that fixed because I sound like an alien up in here. But great. So OBS, one of the most complicated softwares on the planet as far as I'm concerned, and we're making it our bitch. We love that. All right, kids, get ready to strap in. This is the main event. And we'll probably be taking a little break within it. ZZ Top, dude. Okay. Who is that? Hi, Tom. Hi, Tom. It's nice to see you. Welcome to Occult Priestess's Rockfin channel. We appreciate you coming by. So we're going to get into the main event with Mark Passio and his classic lecture, New Age Bullshit. It's so good, you guys. And we will take a break within it. And also, I want to say, keep your eyes peeled for a special cameo appearance by Freeman Fly. That's freemantv.com. And you can find me, Occult Priestess, at occultpriestess.com. If you appreciate this content, please tip your waitress. We appreciate that. All right, we got some singing going on. I hope everyone's in a good mood. Happy Catterday. So here we go again with the smallness. It's just like Alice. You can get big, you can get small. And I love seeing your chat on the screen, you guys, because if I clip this up and put this on another channel somewhere else, they're going to see your chats. So we're just getting one up on YouTube, right? Okay. So here we go. Bear with me.
Jane, you ignorant slut.
Amazing and unified the whole message has been throughout, and how all of these seeming dispergent people coming together and bringing together a single message in front of all of you. It's amazing. I mean, from every different walk of life, every different thought, and everybody coming to very similar conclusions. Well, what can I say about this one here? Mark Passio. Mark Passio is a dynamic, creative force in the universe. He is the epitome of fatherly love. And he had a simple question. What on earth is happening? He's an independent researcher, a public speaker, and a radio talk show host. You can catch him on whatonearthishappening.com. Mark is the co-host and visionary of the Free Your Mind conference, and has done an amazing job of being on spot this whole time and doing an amazing time getting this all coordinated. His studies have been in amounts of vast research going into metaphysics, occultism, spirituality, symbolism, and consciousness studies. He began this presentation with What on Earth is Happening, and just continued in from 2007 to today to continue to try and present a message to the world that would bring some common sense back to whatever is happening on planet Earth. Please welcome Mark Passio.
Okay, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here. My presentation today is going to kind of act as a grounding or an anchoring and help us to really see that there's another side to consciousness that we really cannot allow to be suppressed. And the title of the talk is called New Age Bullshit and the Suppression of the Sacred Masculine. Now, for anyone who has followed my work over the years, you know how much I have talked about the suppression of the sacred feminine, or the dynamic of care in our consciousness. This is going to be about the flip side of that, the mirror, the suppression of the sacred masculine. So let's jump right into the presentation. We all know that the solution is consciousness, and consciousness only manifests through balance. There needs to be balance within us if we are going to create balance without in the external world. So, the left and right brain hemispheres have to both be utilized and in conjunction with each other in a state of balance. The masculine aspect of the personality, the intellect, you could look at it as the upward pointing triangle. Okay? It's logical. It represents analytical thought, science, mathematics, linear thinking. The feminine side of consciousness is the intuition, creativity, nonlinear, dynamic processes, holistic thought, care and compassion and nurturing. Both of these are equally vital and need to be balanced. What the controllers of the world want to see us in is a mental schism. And a mental schism creates a spiritual schism. And it creates opposition internally, which then reflects as opposition in the external world. They don't want these two halves to come together in union, in sacred union. The intellect out of control, okay, the masculine aspect out of control can lead to rigid skepticism, scientism, or science as a religion, atheism, authoritarianism. Okay, if that part of the brain, the left brain hemisphere, is chronically dominant. Conversely, if the right side of the brain hemisphere is chronically dominant, this can lead to states of naivete and blind belief and religious extremism and what I call slave think, bowing down, never standing up for yourself, letting yourself be walked on. Okay? When we balance these two hemispheres and bring them together in that act of sacred union, that is when the spark of the divine activates within us and we come online as a whole human being.
We're talking about how these two parts become one part, and you become single-eyed. The one-eyed man is king in the world of the blind. One side of the brain is creative. The other side of the brain is analytical. The right side, which the right side of the body is masculine, it's the sun, it's, woo, fire. And then the left side is the moon, the goddess, the mother, the feminine energy. So you have your yang and your yin. Sun and moon, right? Split down the middle, right side dominant, left side receptive. Point. Get to the brain, and it's switched. So if you say, I'm a right-brained person, you're not saying I'm masculine. You're saying I'm feminine. You say, I'm a left-brained person. I'm analytical. Most scientists are analytical and have absolutely no feminine, with the exception of Einstein. He said imagination was the most important thing. If you read Einstein, maybe you can call yourself a scientist.
What has that got to do with it? Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
And so brain parts are not cohesive. They are opposite of the sides of the body. And that gives you four. You have a feminine left side of the body, a masculine right side of the body, a feminine right side of the brain, and a masculine left side of the brain. That's four. Now, cut off the head, and we're just getting into the brain. Okay, we're not concerned with the Tao, masculine and feminine, yin and yang, of the body at this point. We're going straight into the brain. The brain consists of 3 parts in this situation. And this is where most people haven't looked, because it goes beyond this dimension in some ways. First part we know is the masculine left brain, analytical, mathematical, empirical evidence. I must be able to see, measure, and get the same results each time. To the feminine, I am the moon, I am psychic, I am your dreams, I am your pieces of art, even as a little child. I am the creative one. I am the one who speaks with God. In the middle, the part no one talks about, is the third eye. Let's see it as a circle or a pocket in the middle of the brain. It is the pineal gland, and if you're healthy, it's filled with water. If you have a lot of fluoride and crap, it could be dried up, and that might be why you're not psychic.
Mind control works through the imbalance of the human psyche. I talked about the neocortex being the higher order thinking. It's what makes higher order thinking possible in the human being. But the other 2 parts of the brain are equally as important, okay, in the 3 basic complexes that compose our brain. There's the mammal brain, which makes possible the emotions that we feel in the physiology of the body. And then there's the reptile brain, okay, which makes possible motor skills, respiration, and it activates our survival instincts. And this is important to keep active. You know, we can't just let that part of the brain drop away because we, don't want to be all just about survival in the physical world. Okay, all of these parts of the brain are equally important and need to be all active simultaneously. And when they are, then the neocortex acts in its proper role as the executive command center of the human brain, which makes higher thought functions possible, and then unifies us in with the heart. So we activate the mind and the heart together. When the left brain is chronically dominant, okay, so when we have masculine chronic dominance of the left brain hemisphere, this creates suppression of the emotional part of the brain. And it roots the personality in the R complex, or the reptilian brain. So that gives us the state of being a out-of-control male dominator aspect of the personality. And this isn't about gender, okay? This is about masculine and feminine qualities. We have to keep that in mind. So that kind of thinking could be present in a female as well as a male. If the right brain hemisphere is chronically dominant, this leads to slave think. It leads to the suppression of the survival instinct, and it eventually roots us in the mammalian brain, where we are ruled by the emotions instead of using them as a compass to guide our actions. Those 2 levels of brain imbalance, the imbalanced psyche, are a sorcerer's wet dream come true. This is what the state they want to keep us in at all times and places. In one side of imbalance or the other. That polarization, that schism, is what ultimately makes us give our power to them. It works through the process called dialectics. The word dialectics comes from the Greek language and Latin language. The prefix dia, or preposition dia, actually means through or by way of in Greek, by means of. And the Latin noun lectus means choice. So you put them together, dialectics means by way of choice, or through choice. Well, we see that active in our world at all times. This is how mind control works. It works through presenting us with a false choice, the illusion of free choice. Do you want the Democrats or the Republicans, when it all leads to the same place? It leads to the slaughterhouse. So it's false choice. That's what dialectics are, false choices. And I want to show you how the New Age movement is one of these false choices. It's just another religion, as we'll get to. Mind-controlled dialectics works through two main dynamics. The first is the dynamic called government. And these are both really illusions. They're control systems. Government actually works through the left brain, and it binds the right brain out of the way. It suppresses the right brain. It is based upon the erroneous and dogmatic belief that there is such a thing as authority that is vested in certain human beings, which gives them special rights which other human beings do not possess. Left brain imbalance will eventually create psychopathic tendencies in the individual, leading some to the belief that they have a right, quote unquote, to rule over others through violence. The next dynamic by which mind control works is religion. And I mean this in the term of a false religion, something that holds us back from progress. Religion works through the right brain hemisphere, and it binds the left brain out of the way. It gets logic out of the way. I summarize religion like this, by this quote: if we give up our free will and personal responsibility to perform right action, some deity, government, guru, extraterrestrial race, or mystical force will save us from ourselves. See, religion works through right brain imbalance, which creates blind acceptance and collectivist groupthink if it is unchecked. And it will eventually lead to a condition in which willing followers will readily submit to authority. So you see how these two dynamics play off against each other to lead to total control. When you put them together, you end up with a brain in chains. And that's what this conference is all about doing. It's about breaking those chains of the mind. When each individual, in the aggregate, the individuals of our world have their brain bound, it leads to this state, a world in chains, which is where we find ourselves right now at this particular point in our evolutionary development in history. Again, the dynamic of government, the word itself, and I really want to clear this up once and for all, the word does mean to control the mind. There's so many people who debate this etymological definition, but I'll explain it very quickly again. Government comes from two Latin words, the verb gubernare, or sometimes rendered as governare. In classical Latin, there is no V. Gubernare means to control in Latin. Just look it up in any Latin dictionary. And the Latin noun mens means mind. You put them together, gubernare mens, government, to control the mind. People debate the last part of this term, mens, because of course in English, mens means the state of or the condition of. So I've always explained this to people as, of course we made this in English, rooted, etymologically derived from the word mens in Latin. The state of anything ultimately has to happen first in the mind before it can manifest as a condition in the physical world. I mean, that makes perfect sense. And yet people argue this definition all the time. The word government does indeed mean mind control. Absolutely. And we need to understand it as such. It's based on an erroneous belief called authority. Authority is based in this concept called jurisdiction. Jurisdiction. That because you're born within some imaginary border that man created, that someone else rules over you and gets to tell you these things you can do, these things you can't do, even if some of those things are actually within your right to do. Okay? And it lets other people think that they have rights that they don't have, that they can do things that are actually against the laws of morality. Jurisdiction comes from the Latin noun jus juris, which means law, and the Latin verb dictere, dicto dictere, which means to speak or to say. Putting them together, we have to say the law. Jurisdiction means the law is what we say it is. That is what jurisdiction means.
You give me that juris my diction crap, you can cram it up your ass.
Authority is the illusion that is created by a diseased psyche that is out of balance toward the left brain, and the right brain as well, to accept the claim of authority.
It is based entirely in violence. That is what backs authority. Violence. It is built upon the erroneous and dogmatic belief that some people are masters who have the moral right to issue commands, while others are slaves who have a moral obligation to obey the masters. This is slavery. By any definition, by any spin that you want to put on it, that's what it really is, putting it plainly and simply. And this is what we seek to destroy, to get rid of. We have to get rid of this idea. This idea is a fundamentally flawed axiom, a fundamental concept that other ideas are built upon. And if you build something on an unsound structure that is based in junk, you cannot build anything on top of that that resembles anything that is orderly or good for us. It will only result in more and more chaos and suffering. We are all sovereign beings, whether anyone here recognizes it or not. So many people don't understand this word when you say, what is a sovereign? The word sovereign, let's break it down etymologically. Let's recognize the importance and the power in words themselves. We have to understand the words we're speaking. Sovereign comes from the Latin adverb super. Super means above. And it comes from, the second part of the word reign comes from the Latin noun regnum. Regnum in Latin means rulership or control. External rulership or control of another person. You put these together, okay? Above or beyond, which is what super means.
I also wanted to talk about above and beyond and add uber to that, as in uber mensch, super man, the new human, brought to you by Theosophy, the United Nations, and Nazis. So there's a lot of references there, but many of you know the connections between these things. And so I just wanted to say hello to the chatters. We have 13 people watching. Please thumbs up. And remember to tip your waitress. Thank you so much. We'll get back to Mr. Passio now.
And rulership or control, regnum. Above control, beyond control. One who is above the rulership or the control of another. One who is not a subject or a slave to any other. And this is what every single being on this planet is, whether they recognize it or not. We are sovereign beings. Sovereign means not a slave. I am not a slave. None of you are slaves. No one is a slave. There can only ever be the claim that someone is a master over another. And then there can be the acceptance of that claim, but neither one of those things will ever make it true in reality. This is a religion. Government and authority are religions. Religion comes from the Latin adverb relegare. Relegare means to tie back, to hold back, or to thwart from forward progress, to bind by tying. It is a system of control based in unchallenged and dogmatic belief which holds back the progress of human consciousness. That is what religion is in the negative sense. There is a positive connotation to the definition of relegare, which means to reunite. When we make truth our religion, then we are reunited with something that is worth being bound to. Okay? The New Age movement, however, is one of these false religions. Okay? I call it, and many other researchers have called the New Age movement the last cul-de-sac before the gold mine. It's a cul-de-sac means a dead-end street with no outlet, which retards the flow of transportation. So you're going around in a circle if you're caught in a cul-de-sac. You never make any progress forward. I call the New Age movement the last religion before the gold mine. Because if what we're really seeking to do is create true enlightenment, we have to get out of all religions that are binding us and holding our consciousness back from truth. And the New Age movement is one of these religions. I call it a spiritual dead end with no outlet, which retards the true awakening process. I'm going to cover 10 New Age deceptions here tonight. And then, of course, as has been stated so eloquently earlier in the conference, never offer criticism without a solution. Never present the problem without presenting the solution. So I will present 10 New Age deceptions along with 10 New Age corrections to go back to the original spirit of how these teachings have been perverted, twisted, and misunderstood over thousands of years. The first deception is, and we're all familiar with this one and how it's utilized in the New Age movement, ignore the negative. Don't look at that. Don't pay attention to that. That's bad. That's evil. That makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't need to hear about that. Many New Age deceivers want to convince you that you, quote unquote, give power to something that is harmful simply by putting your attention upon it and becoming aware of its existence. Therefore, you should never pay attention to or talk about anything that is, quote unquote, negative. Well, there is no such thing as negative when it comes to awareness. You're either aware of it or you're not aware of it. Okay? You're either in knowledge, in possession of knowledge, or you're ignoring it. So it's a question of knowledge or ignorance. So ignore the negative is New Age deception number 1. And this is what it looks like. Putting your head in the sand. And to put your head in the sand, you have to be on your knees with your ass in the air. Okay? Just keep that in mind. To put your head in the sand, you need to be on your knees with your ass in the air. Look, let me get my, sorry, I'm just going to pop for a minute when I plug this in and the question plug in. Sorry about that. Sorry. Let me go back to that slide. And if this is the attitude that we take in life, I have to call bullshit on it, okay? This is the bullshit button. You'll be seeing a lot of it in the presentation. New Age correction to ignoring the negative. Seeing the negative for what it actually is creates the ability to steel oneself against its harmful effects, and possibly even to be able to avert those effects entirely. When we see what's coming with open eyes, we can take measures against it. You know, we can protect ourselves. We can steel ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually against the coming deluge, okay? Refusing to look at critical information, however, just because it makes you feel uncomfortable or scared. Okay, this is a hallmark of right brain imbalance. You know, you're being ruled by the emotions and you don't want to feel the effect of what's really there. Okay, you can feel it and then own that emotion and deal with it, or you could try to ignore it and go to and stay asleep and willfully choose to remain ignorant. Well, you just refuse to look at information because it makes you feel bad. You're willfully choosing to remain in a state of ignorance, ignoring what is actually there, ignoring reality, and therefore you're willfully choosing to remain unconscious. New Age deception number 2, never get angry. You know, this was always my favorite superhero growing up. I never really preferred the other superheroes too much. The Hulk was my favorite. I was like obsessed with the Hulk when I was a kid. All right? He was the big green machine. You know, green, the color that I always talk about as resonating with the heart chakra, resonating with the sacred feminine, actually. The balance point, the middle of the visible spectrum is green. The Hulk embodied one basic overarching natural law principle to me, as I really understood this character, the allegory of this character. It is the first natural law principle, which Frater X actually eloquently stated today. The first right of any being is the right to be left alone. All the Hulk ever wanted was to be left alone. And people would not leave him alone. And he only hulked up and became the monster when he would not be left alone. When people pushed him and pushed him and pushed him and pushed him. And finally, he exercised the sacred masculine principle of self-defense. And when he did, he cleaned house. So, the New Age movement wants to turn your inner Hulk, which is about feeling righteous anger about the inequalities, inequities, the evil, outright evil that's present in our world, and they just want to turn you into someone who's all calm about it, even though evil is running amok. So we can't let our inner Hulk be turned into just someone who's going to roll over and take whatever is thrown at them. That would be bullshit. Okay? The correction to the never get angry deception is this. While non-righteous and unchanneled anger is most certainly counterproductive to both individual development and collective efforts to bring about positive change in our world, righteous indignation, when it is channeled productively, can be a major motivation to create positive change in the world. So it's about owning the anger and channeling it and directing it into positive action in the world. That is the proper usage for the emotion of anger. Anger is not there to be expunged. You should feel anger when there's injustice. Okay? Just like Howard Beale here in the movie Network. You know, I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm going to do something to create change. Like the saying goes, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. And even in the biblical allegory of Christ, people give me a hard time about putting Jesus in the presentation. He's going to be in here a few times too, okay? I understand the astrotheological allegory of the Christ figure. I get that. I could write a book on it if I wanted to. I understand that there's a possibility Jesus was not a physical, historical personage. I get emails about this all the time when I talk about the message of the Christ, okay? It's a whole different thing than the religion about Christ. But in the allegory, Jesus gets angry. He takes out the switch and whips the money changers' asses. Okay? He's feeling and owning his anger and channeling it in the world and taking the switch out if it has to be taken out. All right? So, let's move to New Age deception number 3. The concept that since we're all one, and I certainly agree with that precept, it's all good. There's no bad, nothing bad is happening. It's all good, okay? Good and bad are dualistic. You hear this in the New Age movement. That's duality. That's dualistic. That's judging. That's labeling. Well, how the New Age movement looks at this is they want to tout concepts as right and wrong as dualistic and therefore invalid. They're trying to convince people that everything is okay and should just be accepted. That there is no right way or wrong way, meaning that there is no right and wrong that is objective, okay, that is actually inherent in nature. Inherent right and wrong in nature. They want to convince you that that does not exist, that it's all relative. That's what this is all about. This is about pushing moral relativism. And I tell you now, as I've told many people, this is one of the 4 main tenets of dark occultism and Satanism, moral relativism. So if we fall for that trap, we're buying into a whole bullshit. Okay?
Moral relativism is everywhere. And I'd like you to look at Marxism, fascism, Nazism, all that stuff has moral relativism, Satanism. It all is service to self and therefore is morally relative. And it pisses me off. And that's why one of the reasons I love Mark is because he's yelling for me. If I'm exhausted and tired, but I'm mad, I could put Mark on and he's going to yell for me. And I really appreciate his energy because what on earth is happening? So I really appreciate you all in the chat. And Claire says, yay, angry Jesus. That's awesome, Claire. And hey to Tom, who says that anger is a bad idea. And hi to Ian and all the lurkers out there. Hello, I'm Occult Priestess, and you're on my Rockfin channel. Please tip if you feel called to do so. Back to the show.
The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
The correction. It's not all good. It's not all good. There are bad things that are taking place in the world that we need to acknowledge and own up to and do something about. Here, on the ground, on earth. Here, now. Be here now. Okay? So it isn't all good. There is an objective difference between right and wrong. It's inherent in nature. That which is right is correct because it is based in truth. It is moral because it is based in natural law or cosmic spiritual law. Right is so because actions that are based in it do not result in harm to other living beings. That is what makes it right. Wrong, conversely, is incorrect. It's wrong. It's not based in truth. It is immoral. It is in opposition to natural law, moral law, the cosmic laws of the universe. Actions that are based in it always result in harm to other beings. These are objective. These are inherent. They are not relative. It's all about the development of conscience, recognition between what is right and what is wrong, understanding that deeply. Conscience, as a word, comes from the Latin prefix con. Con means together. And the Latin verb scio, sciere, which means to know. It is the root of our word science. Conscience literally means, when we break it down etymologically, to know together. It is the knowledge of the objective and inherent difference between right and wrong. That is what knowledge, that is what conscience is. Conscience is knowledge. Then it is up to us to utilize wisdom. That's putting conscience into practice. The knowledge of right and wrong and putting it into practice in our world. To know together means to have common sense. This is what our world has lost, unfortunately. It's what we're trying to get it back to get it back to common sense principles. If people can understand this simple slide right here, your consciousness will expand so much and you'll get something that is so important and vital that so many people overlook. This is true non-duality. The place where we're creating schism and duality is by thinking that either spirit or matter are superior. One or the other is superior and the other is inferior. We understand they're all the same thing. They are all part of the one. They are all part of the one thing that is the everything, that is the all. Spirit is not superior to matter. Matter is not superior to spirit. I know I'm going to piss off all the religionists, the New Agers, and the scientific materialists with this, okay? It pisses off everybody because it's saying it's all one thing. This is the spiritual domain. You're in it. It's not separate from us. We're all part of it. Okay? So neither spirit nor matter should be placed in a superior position to the other. New Age deception number 4. You can never really know. This is a big one. And you'd be surprised how many New Age teachers are propagating this. That there is actually no such thing as true knowledge. That it's actually relative.
Again, with the relativism, and I'd like to bring up the chat here. And Claire says, all these young kids are learning moral relativism. All of this, don't judge me, don't judge them. That's really saying, I don't want to be held accountable when I do something wrong. And Ian said, I tried to talk with those people. They're worse than arguing with a brick wall. So the moral relativism is a hot topic, and I hope that you study it in your free time because I literally see it every day, everywhere. Okay, thank you, Mark. This is awesome. And Mark, if you're watching, you're good job.
reality, it all blends down into just energy, okay? But here and now, in the physical world on the earth, we can know things. We can understand what's really taking place in our experience. The New Age notion that there is no such thing as knowledge is actually an ancient ideology called solipsism. And it's based in the deepest level of ego. Solipsism comes from the Latin adjective solus, meaning alone, and the Latin pronoun ipse, meaning self. It is the ideology that only one's own mind is sure to exist. Solipsists contend that knowledge of anything outside of one's own mind is unsure, and hence there is no objective reality, and nothing about the external world and its workings can truly be known. More relativism. And when we engage in this, we will allow anything, because, hey, it's not even real. Why do you care about these children that are suffering? Why do you care about rights being taken away? It's not actually real. There is no truth. You know, that's what solipsism says. If there is no truth, there's no right and wrong, hence there's no morality, and evil can just run amok.
Oh, we're just one child.
Bullshit. There is such a thing as knowledge. Okay? Things can be known. Solipsism is what I call total spiritual infancy. You know, perception is not reality, contrary to some people's popular belief. But our work here on earth is to align the two, to align our perceptions with the objective reality that exists. Look at these white lines as truth, okay? Each white line represents truth. These are waves, okay? And this has a longer wavelength, which means it has a lower frequency. It hits the truth less frequently. You see, these are the only places it intersects the line which represents truth. As we move to a higher frequency, you can see we hit the truth in many more places than in this lower frequency. As we go to a much higher frequency, we hit the truth in a whole lot of places. And eventually, we can align ourselves at all points with the truth, if our consciousness expands to that higher level. It is all about coming into accord with the real. Solipsism, on the other hand, in the New Age movement, is a defining hallmark of spiritual infancy. But departing from this flawed, untrue, and diseased ideology is a surefire sign of the beginnings of human maturity and true spiritual development. There is no such thing as spiritual development if you're a solipsist. Now, I call that the biggest lie. That's the biggest lie of all evil, is solipsism. Again, there's no truth, there's no morality, there's no justice. Evil can run amok. And Satanism actually tries to sell solipsism to people. But those dark occultists consider it the biggest sin to them, because they know there's an objective truth. They're trying to sell that idea of solipsism to people through the New Age movement. Objective reality does exist. Truth can be known. Rights are inherent to creation itself and are based in truth and natural law. When you don't know what rights are, you cannot define what a right is. And if you don't objectively know what a right is, you are a person who will never say no to those who attempt to take your rights away. And that's what they want to propagate. They want people who are subservient and will accept their chains willingly. You have to know your rights. Know your rights. Don't think you know them. Don't have a belief about what a right is. Know the difference between right and wrong, and hence know your rights. Those who don't know won't say no. There's a mantra for you. You want a mantra to meditate on and to contemplate on? There it is. If you don't know, you won't say no. Which brings us to the fifth deception in the New Age movement. Accept, but never, ever resist. Never resist. Resistance is futile. And we have the board here in the presence of, in the form of Bush and Cheney. You know, you will be assimilated. Don't bother to resist. You will be part of the dark New World Order. And don't worry, I'll even it out later with Obama as a Borg. So that's one of the first parts of this deception. This is going to be a central focus in the presentation, the concept of never resist, just accept. Another part of this deception is the abuse, the incorrect usage of meditation and yoga. The New Age movement has been twisting these spiritual practices into means to take people's minds off the fact that they have been enslaved and make it easier for them to just accept the current condition of the world as their lot in life. It just cannot be changed and has to be accepted. Don't react to anything. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this. Never react. Just observe. Now, observation is key. It's critical. We have to watch what is happening. We have to watch ourselves. And they say never react. Now, what this translates to in most people's minds who hear this, because, they're just hearing, don't ever react to anything. All right? In most people's minds who are part of the New Age religion, this means to them, don't take any action in the world. That action is ultimately meaningless. It's just about changing yourself within, but then never actually interacting with the outside world to create change outside. Never take any action to try to change the things that are wrong with the world. What they're really saying when they say don't react is they're saying don't act. Don't take any action. The suppression of the sacred masculine part of the consciousness, our actions. The next part of this deception is what you resist persists. Another New Age tenet that sounds good seemingly, but again, it takes us away from actually utilizing our mind and our emotions to take action in the world, which actually is what wisdom is about. Developing true wisdom is about taking action in the world. Wisdom is what you do with what you know. So, the New Age deceivers say, don't resist evil. Just let it run rampant and destroy everything that is good. Freedom is irrelevant. Your culture will adapt to service us. Surrender all your ways. No confrontation, the New Agers will tell us. There's never a time for confrontation, and there's certainly never, ever, ever a time to use physical force. Never a time to use physical force. Bullshit. Okay? And this is something we need to come to terms with and own and understand. We can't just let ourselves be walked on and roll over to psychopaths. At some point, there is a time that comes when it is necessary to use physical force, and we'll get into that. I want to talk about the idea of acceptance versus resistance, or changing something first, okay? And I think someone who eloquently expressed wisdom regarding this was Reinhold Niebuhr. And he said in the prayer of serenity, which is very misquoted, and you'll hear the difference when I read the original of this prayer here. He said, God, grant me the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed. See, the word I is not in this version, okay? The courage to change the things which should be changed. That's not in the version that people hear either, but that's the original, okay? And the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other, meaning there are some things that cannot be changed. They are inherent. They are objective. They exist in nature. They weren't created by man. And man cannot change them. Therefore, those are the things that should be accepted. And that is natural law. That is God's law. Okay? And then there are things which should be changed because they are not right. They are bad. They are bad for our development. They are bad for our growth. We need to develop the wisdom to know which things cannot be changed and which things we should and must change. So I like this version. Accept what you can't change and change what you can accept. Those are words of wisdom. We should be really heeding those words in our lives. The right usage of meditation and yoga, the difference between use and abuse. Meditation's correct usage is for balancing the brain when it has become chronically left brain dominant. It actually means to take to the middle. That's what the word meditation means, to bring to the middle. We should be using it if we're in a state of chronic left brain dominance. If we overuse it when we're already in a state of balance, we're going to create right brain hemispherical indominance, and we're going to become...
That's so true. So we were actually talking about this on the show Obelisk with Jerry and Nish. We were talking about the... Sorry, I kind of lost my place. Wow, I really lost my place. I'm going to let that be. Sorry, guys.
Become practitioners of slave thing and just roll over. It's supposed to bring it to balance. We could use contemplation to keep it there, to keep it in that balanced state, the mind. Yoga's proper usage is to help us to discover what our true work actually is in the world.
Yes, so Straight Down the Middle is actually the title of a Kate Bush song, Straight Down the Middle, and it is about the middle path. And if you would like to know more about how to cultivate a practice of walking the middle path, you can come to me and I could tell you all about it, or you can study Buddhism, because that is what that and my guru, Sri Mamo Devi, is what taught me the middle path. And so the fight song for the middle path is Walk Straight Down the Middle by Kate Bush.
Create real change. It is our dharma. It helps us to find our dharma. Okay? It is there to motivate us to do that work, to get into the modality of action, the masculine aspect of consciousness. That's what yoga is for. Not to relieve your stress so you can put up with more crap at your job. That's not what yoga is for. It's not what real yoga is for. It's also not just about losing weight and trimming up your body. Of course, the physical vehicle is very important. But people are abusing the yogic system. They're not using it for the right reasons. What's being left out of the equation always, in the New Age movement, is the sacred masculine component of the actions which we perform with our body. They'll talk about thoughts and emotions, but very rarely you hear them telling people that they actually have to get motivated and take action in the world with the body. This is very much, pushed to the back burner in the New Age movement. And until these three things are operating in total balance, all together, with no opposition or internal contradiction between these three expressions of consciousness, we're not conscious. We're in a state of unconsciousness, and therefore apt to be manipulated and enslaved. See, the difference between the New Age precept of that which you resist persists, and my variant of it, see if you can wrap your mind around this. That which manifests as a result of what we are wrongly resisting is that which will persist in the world. We are wrongly resisting truth as a society, as a species, and therefore we're going to get run down by the train of that which cannot be changed. Natural law. The natural law express is going to run us over because we think we're going to stand there with our arm outstretched, refusing to know the truth and understand objective reality and objective right and wrong. We're going to put our hand out and we're going to stop that force of creation that the universe has made, and we're going to stand against it. Okay? We're going to get run down, like getting run down in the tracks by a locomotive, if that's our attitude. That's what resistance it really is. So here's a hint. Don't be this guy. Okay? Accept natural law, the laws of creation. Okay? And stop resisting truth. And help to get other people into that mode of consciousness. See, there's two pillars to enlightenment that provide stability and balance. And there can't be balance without each one of these. Okay? The first one is the sacred feminine principle, which I've talked extensively about in my work. This is the non-aggression principle. Do not initiate violence to your other fellow beings. That's it. Violence should never be initiated. It is coercive force. It is using coercion. It is stealing someone else's free will to make them bend their will to yours. That's violence. Okay? Don't engage in that. That's the non-aggression principle. It's very simple. That's the sacred feminine. We add this. To this, we add the sacred masculine, which is the principle of self-defense. And this is what the New Age movement completely leaves out, and often what the freedom movement leaves out. Without the self-defense principle, we are not ever going to give any teeth or backing or defense to the sacred feminine principle. The goddess principle cannot stand without the sacred masculine principle. Without that pillar being put in conjunction with the sacred feminine, neither of them can stand. Okay? So we have to understand the difference between force and violence. They are not the same thing and should not be used interchangeably. This is the obfuscation of the definition of words, when people want you to believe that the word force is the same thing as violence, and it is not. Force is the capacity to do work or cause physical change, to create change. It is energy, it is strength, it is active power. We all use it to perform the actions that we do on a daily basis. Action which is in harmony with morality and natural law because it does not violate others' rights. Okay? All ability to create any change in the world is a manifestation of force. Use the force. Don't use violence. Okay? Force is action which we possess the right to take. And this includes defense against violence. When our rights are being violated, we have the inherent right, even though many people have convinced us that we do not, to use defensive force against that aggression against our natural rights. Violence, on the other hand, one never has a right to take. It is always based in wrongdoing. Violence is the immoral use of physical power to coerce, compel, or restrain. It is the initiation of coercive action, which is in opposition to morality and natural law because it involves the violation of others' rights. Violence is action which we never possess the right to take. And the difference between the two is who started it. You know, you hear teachers always telling students, hey, you got in a fight, it doesn't matter who started it. That's all that matters when it comes to this dynamic. Who started it? If you started it, you engaged the violence. If I get mugged out on the street, I'm walking down the street peacefully and somebody pulls out a switchblade knife and says, give me your wallet or I'm going to cut you, that's violence. They started it when there was no problem present. If I pulled out a 9mm handgun and defended myself, that's not violence. I don't care who thinks that's violence, you're wrong. That would be the defensive use of force, and you need to know the difference between the two terms.
Yes, I would like to reiterate that Mark Passio did this talk in 2013, and Claire says, it's crazy to think this was filmed in 2013. Sounds like he's speaking to us in real time. And as I was editing this, I was tripping out too. I was like, man, if we could just get this on a major network somewhere, get this out. But that's why I'm doing this for all of us. Some of us need a little refresher, a little reminder, but also you can share this with your friends or go to the original video, whatonearthishappening.com, and share his entire series with your friends. So it's just amazing that we've been set up with Providence, with people like Mark Passio, FreemanTV.com, and also myself, because the little section of my own work about the third eye and the two sides of the brain was published in 2012. So we've all been doing the great work for quite a while. And I want to thank all the people in the chat. Please thumbs up. And please tip your waitress if you appreciate this information. Thank you. We'll get back to the show now.
you have these different groupings in society that, all say they want something good, but they're not putting these principles together. They're not wedding them in the divine union between sacred masculine and sacred feminine. Two of the groups I just want to point out, I call it the My Freedom movement. They're real concerned about the loss of freedom for them, okay? A lot of activists are like this, Halfway understanding about these principles will not get it done. It won't get us to true freedom. The My Freedom movement often leaves out the sacred feminine principles of non-aggression and compassion toward others. While conversely, the New Age movement leaves out the sacred masculine principles of standing up for one's inherent rights and our inherent right to defend ourselves against violence. Okay, when we are to defend ourselves with force when we are accosted with violence. New Age movement leaves that sacred masculine tenet out. A totalitarian police state is coming down on us, and we all know this. We wouldn't be here if we didn't. All right? And the occult controllers who are bringing this system forward, who are manipulating this system to come forward, are trying to propagate a religion that will make it come on faster by pushing people into deeper right brain imbalance so that they will never stand up for their natural rights. And that religion is the New Age movement. It is that religion. And this is invented by dark occultists. And when I was involved in Satanism and the dark occult, they told me, wait till you see the things we are going to be putting out through the New Age movement to get these people to stand down. I was told that by Satanists. And they did it. Everything they told me came true. They said, wait till you see the concepts we'll be putting out through books, videos, documentaries, etc., and we will be behind that. And whether they got useful shills to propagate it, or whether those people are working directly with these occultists to deceive people directly, I don't know. It could be a little bit of both. But I do know dark occultists are behind the New Age movement. Let's cut through the BS when it comes to this deception of standing down, of accepting, and never rebelling. The real reason, as uncomfortable as this will be for many people to accept, that most people, including New Agers, do not want to speak out against government and authority is because deep down inside, they're cowards. They're cowards who lack the courage and conviction to stand up to a bully. And that's the lesson here. This is the lesson, ladies and gentlemen. The lesson here on earth is stop letting the bully have his way. Stop letting him continue to usurp your natural rights, which are not his to take. We have to exercise the sacred masculine dynamic of apotheosis in conjunction with the sacred feminine dynamic of true care. And this is done by saying no. Developing the care enough to work up the courage to say no. This is the lost word, as it is known in the mystery traditions, particularly the esoteric tradition of true Freemasonry. This is the lost word of Freemasonry, ladies and gentlemen. I've just revealed it to you. Something that most Freemasons never know in their lives, because they don't receive the true teachings in the modern lodge system. The lost word is no. Learn it well. Fall in love with it. Before it has to come to the last word. And this is what I'm trying to avoid. I've told people repeatedly, over and over and over, all the work that I have done is to avert the negative and painful scenario that may need to occur if not enough of us stand up and say no. Because then it will come to something that is appalling. Okay? And I'm trying to avert that. I don't want that scenario. I want peace to reign on the earth. Okay? I want people to give up the violence ideology that they're currently living by. But you know what? I will not go quietly either. Everybody who's been listening to my there knows how much of a gun supporter I am. For defensive purposes, to back with teeth our natural law right to defend ourselves from violence. And no one will take that right from me. You might take it from my corpse, but you won't take it from my living body.
From my cold, dead hands, right? So I wanted to bring your attention back to the chat. Thank you so much, Claire Mathis, for your generosity. Just about every time she's here, she's tipping. She's subscribed to me. She is a super fan. So be like Claire, you guys. She's amazing. Thank you, Claire. And I want to say hello to Erin's Energy, who has made it here tonight. And she says, what Mark was just talking about, she was referencing it, and she says, to protect us from our own government. Isn't that the truth? And I'll tell you, I'm only on Rockfin tonight. I'm not streaming anywhere else because I couldn't quite figure out how to do that with OBS yet. But also, I like it kind of private so that I don't have to watch what I say whatsoever, and neither do you. We've already talked about, we brought up COVID and all other kinds of things. And so Erin's Energy has taken my advice. Be like Claire. She has tips. So thank you so much, Erin's Energy. You're very supportive as well. And I thank you so much for that tip. It makes my night because I work on this stuff all week, and plus I had to work on the OBS and understanding it. So, and I had clients. So this was like the week. And so I really appreciate you showing love in that form of energy. Let's get back to Mark Passio.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing on that screen is a peaceful man, a peace-filled human being. I live the non-aggression principle in every moment in my life. I know what my rights are. I know what my rights are not. I know that which I own and that which I do not own, and I live according to those principles. But I'm not going to let some psychopath or some mind-controlled slaves of some psychopaths tell me they own my natural rights and they're coming to take my freedom. Not without consequence. Not without consequence. There's free will, but there's not free will without consequence. So, again, I won't go quietly into the night. That's the decision I will make. And that is my right to do so. And you know what? This principle has been shown through symbolism and allegory in many of the ancient mystery traditions. In the Aztec tradition, they had the concept of Quetzalcoatl. The Quetzal bird, he is covered with the feathers. Quetzalcoatl was called the feathered serpent. See, this is the dynamic of the above and the below combined. Spirit and matter existing as one, coming together in the divine union. The sacred feminine is the feathers of the Quetzal bird that flies aloft in the air, representing higher consciousness and the sacred feminine principles of non-aggression. While the serpent, the fangs and venomous serpent, okay, the coatl, right, represents the sacred masculine principle of self-defense. Striking if your natural law rights are violated repeatedly, and the one who is doing it will not take no for an answer. That dynamic is kept. That is the survival instinct. That is the sacred masculine instinct. That is just as important as the sacred feminine higher consciousness of do no harm. Do not aggress with violence against your fellow beings. And in the Bolivian tradition, here we have at Tiwanaku, the sun gate at Tiwanaku, Bolivia, the image of Viracocha, the sun god. And he's holding the two pillars of the sacred masculine and sacred feminine dynamics. He is the one who bridges the two. He bridges those two principles and creates stability. And he is holding the serpent pillars. Okay? And he is enlightened as a result of doing so. Those are the two pillars of enlightenment. That's why it's the sun gate. It is the keystone on the sun gate this sacred union. The sacred masculine is being left out as much as the sacred feminine is, unfortunately. This is my favorite depiction in any tradition of a yin-yang symbol. It comes from the Gnostic tradition. The serpent and the dove. This is the roots of esoteric Christianity. And it's a beautiful concept. You know, it's very similar to the Quetzalcoatl principle, just in a slightly different symbolic form. You have the bird, the dove, the Holy Spirit, the sacred feminine, non-aggression, care, compassion. But it is combined and unified. That's the above. But it goes around, it combines and unifies and does a sacred dance, a union with the sacred masculine, the serpent, okay, which represents the sacred masculine principle of the inherent right to defend ourselves. In the Hermetic tradition, very ancient Kemetic sciences, and even predating the land of Kemet, they had a concept known as the stellar man, the stellar being, the being of the stars. Okay? But
the stellar man, he's saying, is an original concept. And then earlier, he mentioned the overman, the oversoul, the ubermensch, which is what I mentioned, Superman. But this predates all of those, which makes one wonder if the stellar man is the original and the rest are inverted fakes, like mimics. Because I found most of the very positive facts and loving principles of heaven are inverted in this earth, so on this plane. So it's very interesting to think about these things. So the star people may have started with the ancients, and now the New Age has it, right? Okay, so back to Mark.
the stellar man and woman, you know, it's just a term, a label, okay? The stellar being, let's say, has their head in the stars, but their feet anchored firmly on the earth. Be here now. Understand what's really taking place in the real world, which is the physical domain, but it is also the expression of the spiritual domain. And act here on the earth. Use the sacred masculine principle of action in the right capacity to create positive change. Have your head in the stars. Understand higher consciousness. But do your work here on the earth. Have your feet on the ground. New Age deception number 6. The watered-down version of the laws of attraction. And if anyone, I'm sure we're all familiar with The Secret and how this is kind of a very watered-down version of really understanding how we collectively, how we in the aggregate create our own reality. And they want to teach us that we're all individually creating the reality that we experience, you know, in some kind of a separate way. But because it's all based in wanting to do things for the self. This is how it's sold to people. Oh, you can learn this principle of attraction to make more money, to get the cushier job, to get the better car, to get the better house. You know, it's very, very rooted in the modality of service to self, not service to others, and certainly not service to truth. Okay? The real laws of attraction are natural law. The fake law of attraction that is taught in the New Age movement is all based in ego. It's all about me, 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 me. And as a result, I have to call bullshit. Okay? The real laws of attraction always take in all 3 aspects of the expressions of consciousness. See, in the fake New Age, watered-down version of the laws of attraction, they teach us, hold the intention in your mind, feel the emotion in your body, and it'll come to you. Well, hold the emotion within, and what you want, your desires will manifest. They leave out the action part, magically, though. Let me jump back there. They leave out the action part. And action, again, is that sacred masculine dynamic. This is being left out in this watered-down variant of the New Age laws of attraction, which are rooted in ego. The real law of attraction is natural law, or what I've started calling the cosmic spiritual laws of consciousness. These are the inherent natural laws that exist in nature, man did not create, and they govern the consequences of our behavior. They're universal. They exist at all times and places. They're non-man-made. They are binding. We are bound by them, whether we understand them, acknowledge them, want to know them, or are dismissive of them or not. They're here. It's just like gravity. You're bound by it. It will have an effect on you. Just by belief in it, you're not going to change it. It exists inherently. And you didn't create it. It's non-man-made. It's immutable. It cannot be changed. Natural law cannot be changed. It is the law of the universe. It is the law of the creator of the universe. Man did not make it. Man cannot change it. It is that which is. It is truth. And it governs the consequences of our behaviors that we choose to bring the experiences to us through our free will choices. I've covered the expressions of natural law, how there's a generative force or polarity that we work with, and that's either love or fear. The positive expression is love, the expansive force of consciousness. The negative expression is fear, that which shuts down consciousness. And we move down through the initiative or the beginning expression to an internal expression which operates within us, then to an external expression which goes out to work in the world in which we live, and then there's a manifestation, a result. Okay? It is something that has been generated, has been manifested as a result of how we're putting those expressions into work in our lives. So if we exist in the polarity of higher consciousness, expanded awareness, that is love. And it moves forward through the seeking of truth and the acquisition of knowledge. Then internally, through that knowledge of self, we come to recognize our own sovereignty, or what I call internal monarchy. The word monarch means one ruler. We only have the right to rule one being, and that's ourselves. That's it. We don't rule anyone outside of us, control anyone outside of us. We control our own thoughts, our own emotions, and our own actions, and nothing else. Okay? When we exist in that modality of sovereignty internally, and know that we're sovereign, and live that way, and practice that in our everyday lives, true freedom will result in our external manifestation. And the reason it's not is because so few people really are in an expanded state of awareness, do have a lot of knowledge, or are seeking truth, and do understand their sovereignty. I call freedom external anarchy, and I'll talk about what that word really means in a moment. And then when we put this all together, order results. That's how order is created. We do need a new world order. We need a new world order based in love, knowledge, sovereignty, and freedom. That's the light new world order. The dark new world order is going to be created by this column over here. Fear, ignorance. Fear is the mind killer. It is that which shuts consciousness down and puts the mind in chains. When we're in fear, we willfully choose to remain ignorant, to refuse the truth, to remain ignorant, to ignore what is there objectively and inherently in nature. When we are in that state of ignorance, internally we go into a state of confusion, and then confusion is internal anarchy, meaning there's no ruler or master within. We have to create a master within. We have to master ourselves. Okay? If there isn't that state of self-mastery within, then that's internal anarchy. And that's not a good thing. We need internal monarchy, being the one ruler and unifying all three aspects of consciousness in one. When we're in a state of confusion, we externally go into a state of control. That's just how natural law works. And that's external monarchy. That's someone outside of you telling you that they own you, that they're your master and you're their slave. That's chaos. That's evil. And there is such a thing. That's not duality. That exists. That's real. That's true. And just note that these only work one way. You can't start with one dynamic and build anything over on this side. You start with that dynamic, you build straight down that column. You start with that dynamic, fear, over there, you can't build anything on that other side. It only goes down straight down to that side and ends up in chaos. understanding natural law and spreading that knowledge to anyone that you can bring that understanding to is what service to truth is all about. That's not service to self, and that's not even service to humanity. I tell people that all the time. I'm not serving humanity. I serve truth. I serve truth itself. Whether you want to look at that as God, the Creator, the universe, that's the force that I serve. We co-create our shared reality in the aggregate. Individual choices, either based in harmony or opposition to natural law, ultimately influence the quality of our shared experience. This dynamic acts as a perfect expression of the principle of correspondence in natural law. As above, so below. As below, so above. The microcosm is a reflection of the macrocosm, and the macrocosm is a reflection of the microcosm. Conversely to what the New Age movement will tell you, for a quantum shift in our world to take place, numbers are required. We don't have enough numbers to get this quantum shift done right now. That's why we have to bring the message of natural law to as many people as we can once we understand it deeply enough. Numbers are important. New Age deception number 7. Forgive them even if they are not sorry. A false notion of forgiveness. Okay? I'm all for forgiveness, ladies and gentlemen, but I want people to understand the dynamic between true forgiveness and this false variant that's being sold to us by the New Age movement. Because here's what that ends up with. Turning the other cheek will help even out the scars. You keep not standing up to a bully, trying to just run away from a bully, never exerting the sacred masculine dynamic of standing up for your rights, you're going to end up a victim. You're going to end up in slave think modality. Okay? And that's letting yourself be walked on. And what does that have to do with being free? We're living in truth. Nothing. Because it's bullshit. That's why. Here's what true forgiveness is about. It's about being able to hear that word, this phrase right here, which is one of the most powerful phrases that could ever be said, and to accept that, okay? But once the person demonstrates that they are truly sorry for what they've done. True forgiveness does not mean, really hear this, it does not mean continuing to excuse the willful commission of wrongdoing an infinite number of times. That is not what forgiveness is. If you've bought that into that notion of forgiveness, you've bought the lie. You've bought the bullshit. Okay? That is naivete at the very, very best. And it is cooperation with evil at the worst. True forgiveness starts with a sincere apology. A sincere apology starts with the willingness to tell the truth and to cease one's engagement in violent action. That's where forgiveness has to start. With the oppressor saying, I'll stop doing this and I'm sorry for having done it. And I will desist. I will cease and desist. Will you forgive me for what I have done? Okay? Now, yeah, then you should accept the apology once the person demonstrates they're not going to continue to do that action and forgive them. I have no problem with that at all.
Okay, so I did get an email this week from a client who's been around for years and years. She knows who she is. And she actually asked me this very specific question about turning the other cheek. And how she felt like that was maybe a self-denial situation. And I said, turn the other cheek is a lesson we grow through. It does not always mean to turn the other cheek. It means when it's appropriate. And only through turning the other cheek in practice can you find out where, when, and under which circumstances it is appropriate, and when it's time to fight back. Love Jesus. And she super appreciated hearing that. And it was what she needed to hear at the time. So understand that when we hear these principles like turn the other cheek, practice it, and then you have to be on top of that and say, what did I learn through doing that? Was it appropriate at that time? And only through practice do we get experiential knowledge, which leads to wisdom. Okay, so that we have to do these practices. There are no fast answers because you have to experience the parables. Okay, we're going to go back. And thank you, everyone, 17 people in the chat. Truth is a responsibility for sure, says Claire. And there's a lovely quote from Manly P. Hall that says, as an occultist, we must serve the truth if we do the great work that is in service to the truth. So I love these things. Hi to everyone in the chat. I am Occult Priestess. Please tip your waitress if you enjoy this information and share it with your loved ones.
But if they keep doing the same thing over and over and over and show no sign of wanting to reform their behavior, and you keep offering them forgiveness, you're a moron. That's all I have to say. Okay? True forgiveness starts with the willingness to tell the truth on the part of the oppressor and to cease their engagement in their violent behavior. Then they can be forgiven, no problem. Okay? New Age deception number 8. Chaos should be feared. You know, we all think government has to be in place because of chaos. Chaos will emerge if we don't have it. You know, they sell us this fear, the terror threat at any moment. We have to have levels and colors for how severe a terror threat is. You know, this is all to get people to believe that if they give up their freedom, they'll be safe. You give up your freedom, you won't be safe and you'll be a slave. Because that dynamic is bullshit. The correction to the concept that we should fear chaos is to understand that chaos is a teacher. And in the ancient world, there were 2 divine teachers. And, you know, they went by many other names, but these are the general archetypes. One was Isis, the mother goddess. Okay, this is, and again, it's not an actual being, folks. It's an allegory. It's a symbol. Understand that. Okay, she represented truth. She represented the expansion of consciousness, the opening of the heart, compassion, true care, love.
I do have to disagree with Mark on this one. As a woman who worships Our Lady Isis, the goddess of most of my past lives, I do believe she's real, actual, because she teaches me and guides me. So I just had to do a little rebuttal there.
That's what the goddess represented. Okay? She nurtures the child. See, this is Mary and Jesus, too. This is Semiramis and Tammuz in the Babylonian tradition. Okay? In the Egyptian tradition, it's Isis and Horus. The golden child. Now, she's the green mother. You can actually see the hue a little bit. She's the green mother. Care, the heart. And he's the golden child. Right action in the world. Okay? The second teacher is Eris. And she looks frightening and, you know, crazy and everything and scary. And maybe she is. Maybe Eris is very scary because Eris was the goddess of chaos. This is the teacher that swoops in like a hurricane when you refuse to accept truth and natural law and morality and the difference between right and wrong.
That is very true. Hail Eris, hell yes. Eris, the goddess of chaos, chaos magicians actually, well, I suppose they're supposed to worship her. I don't know if they actually do, but she's the goddess of chaos magicians. And when 2020 came around and the COVID started, I started seeing golden apples everywhere. And Eris is that goddess that has the golden apple of chaos, K-A-O-S, and she gave it to the Greeks, the goddesses, and there was a contest who was the most beautiful, and one of the gods had to choose which female was most beautiful, and that caused the chaos, right? So it's really egos bashing against egos. We're using gods for these stories who don't actually have that kind of ego that we have as a human, but through these parables, we learn through the supposed God's bad behavior, we learn about ourselves. So that just makes them our teachers, also makes chaos one of our teachers.
Exercise conscience. Eris comes in and kicks your ass at that point because it deserves a kicking. See, we're the species that wants to keep doing this. Think we can keep doing that without consequence. Well, keep putting your hand on the stove and enjoy what you're getting. Flesh is coming off the bone soon. Okay? But we're choosing that for some reason. We need to... See, that's what Eris does. Eris shows you what is. You want to put your hand on the stove? It's getting burned. You're choosing chaos willingly by refusing to acknowledge natural law. But it's not a bad thing, because chaos is a teacher. You know, a child who touches a hot stove usually doesn't do it twice, because they learn something by the pain. The control and slavery system is about the limitation of free will through the destruction of possibility. This is what fear of chaos is all about. See, if we fear chaos, we can never really be free. True freedom must, by definition, include the possibility of chaos, because true freedom is infinite possibility. That's what it is. It includes the possibility of chaos manifesting. We can't fear that possibility. We have to embrace it. Okay, that is something that should be accepted. Chaos might happen. You know, like Swami said, accept it, deal with it, get the t-shirt, have a beer, and split. You know? Okay? Chaos is possible. We shouldn't fear it. When we give into that fear, we're apt to being controlled from without. You know, this whole thing, oh, I can't believe that we can live without government because it'll never work out. How many times have people heard that? That's the fear of chaos, which means it's the fear of true freedom. These people are afraid to really be free. They're afraid to go outside the cage and not live as a slave, because that means total personal responsibility. Ultimately, that mindset of, oh, I can't imagine how that could work, it's the death of the imagination. It's the death of the imagination. Through fear of the possibility of chaos, which is true freedom, most people advocate the legitimacy and continuance of authority and government, and are therefore actually advocating the legitimacy and continuance of violence and slavery. This is the religion known as statism. It is the most dangerous religion in the world. Those who believe that authority is necessary and that it must continue have actually been duped into believing that human slavery is necessary and must continue in order to prevent chaos.
That's what I always say. Every vote is a vote for Lucifer, for evil, for the darkness. The more you encourage them, the worse this is going to get. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell strangers.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of logical sense, doesn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, violence and slavery, which is what the advocation of any form of government is, cannot prevent chaos, ever. Do you want to know why? Because violence and slavery are chaos.
Yeah.
There's only one true divide in humanity. There is something that divides us and separates us. It's the belief in authority. Or, if that's not present, that's the only thing that's truly different in humanity. That's it. Sex, age, religion, you know, ethnicity, etc. These are all dividers. They're illusions. This is a real divider. It's true. This is the true divide. Whether you're a statist. Statism is the brilliant idea that we give a small group of people the right to kidnap, imprison, harass, steal from, and kill people so that we can be protected from people who kidnap, harass, steal, and kill people. Brilliant. Now, I told you Jesus would be making a couple other appearances. He's saying here in this meme, I'm an anarchist, but most of my followers are statists. An anarchist is the other side to this coin. Anarchy comes from the Greek prefix an, which means without or the absence of, and the Greek noun archon, which means master or ruler. Anarchy, the word anarchy, does not mean without rules. There's always going to be rules because there's always going to be natural law. Anarchy literally means without rulers, without masters. Now, you give that phrase to someone, and they'll tell you that represents true freedom. But you give that word to somebody, and they'll tell you it means chaos. The obfuscation of the definition of words. Without true definition, we have no true clarity. That's what definition means. You get a high-definition TV set, you have better clarity. I like to call anarchy archony, and I'll explain why. This is my new coining of a word. I want to put this word in the dictionary. Archony. All right? We'll understand what it means in a moment. So, the one true divide is the difference between... since archon means ruler, anarchy means the state of no rulers. That's what it means, literally. No rulers, no masters. So when we see this true divide, what it boils down to is statists are actually supporters of the archons, the masters. They believe in a master-slave relationship. They believe that that violent dynamic should continue. And our anarchists, what we call anarchists, are actually anarchonists. They are against the archons. They are against external masters. They reject the notion that anyone gets to master us outside of ourselves. So the term archonist and anarchonist, I like that much better than statist versus anarchist. Because then you'll get to explain what the word means to people. You could break it down and explain what they're really supporting, which is slavery. Bridging the divide, I call this. To all archonists or statists of the world, I have this to say. I, for one, will willingly choose true freedom, even if it meant that that roads may no longer exist. All the statists say, well, how do we deal with roads? I don't care. I'd rather be free and not have roads, if it came to that. Even if roads no longer exist in a post-slavery world, even if it meant that murderers and cannibals might lurk around every corner, even if it meant that I might drown in human waste because there would be no sanitation, even if it meant that my home might collapse because of unsafe building standards, or that it might spontaneously burst into flame at any moment and no one would come to put out the fire. Even with all those things, I would rather live my life in total danger and be truly free than to exist in a so-called state of safety and be a slave. An understanding and acceptance of true freedom means letting go of fear and the possibility of chaos, of the fear of the possibility of chaos. As long as people stubbornly cling to this fear, they are ultimately enslaving themselves because slavery is generated and perpetuated through fear. Only when we stop being afraid can we ever begin to imagine what it means to truly be free. New Age deception number 9, enlightenment is only about changing yourself. And the end goal is to feel good all the time. And the New Age movement propagates this. It's bullshit. Okay? That's not what enlightenment is. That's not what enlightenment is really about. Enlightenment is about responsibility to truth above all else. That's what it comes down to. Truly enlightened being is a defender of truth and steps into that responsibility willfully. See, the choice between the two pills, the blue pill or the red pill, it's about the choice between deception and accepting the lie or going into the truth of hidden knowledge. The truth of the current human condition should make one feel uncomfortable based on where we're at, where we've let the dynamic come to. Use that discomfort to motivate yourself to create real change in the world through your actions. Seek the truth and then speak the truth. More people need to move into that dynamic because it is about talking to others. It is about helping them to understand, not just saying, I'm good, so that's it, I'm done. No, you just started by getting yourself into good shape here and here. You just started. That's not where it ends. It's not about you getting to that condition and then just feeling good and saying screw everybody else. You then have a responsibility to truth by speaking that truth to others. It is our shared responsibility to help awaken others by continuously speaking truth unapologetically, even if we feel burdened by this task and even if it makes all of those who are involved feel uncomfortable. Carl Jung once said that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The latter procedure, however, is disagreeable to most people, and therefore it is not popular. And that is why we are not doing, in large numbers, the true great work. Because that, what I just read there by Carl Jung, is what the true great work is. Lastly, the idea that truth does not need to be defended. You know, that it just exists on its own, without us. You know, we don't matter. We don't need to say this to people. The truth just stands on its own. Don't even open your mouth if someone rejects it. Well, you know, they say it stands on its own, so never confront anybody else on their bullshit. You know, this is part of that no confrontation thing, so nobody feels uncomfortable. We could all just feel happy-go-lucky. So never confront anybody else on their bullshit. That's bullshit in and of itself. Okay? That which can be destroyed by truth should be. We are the vehicles by which truth operates in the world. We're that light. So let's make this a bullshit-free zone, and we do not apologize for any inconvenience or discomfort. The universe is spoken into existence by us. It is true that the truth can never be destroyed, but we can. If and only if we refuse to be the defender of truth, to take up that mantle and to take up that sword and defend the sacred feminine with the sacred masculine. Never, ever give up. It's about will. Continuous will is what the sacred masculine is all about. And that's what brings the sacred feminine forward. So rage against the dying of the light and be the spark of the divine in this world by speaking the truth to other people. That's how we'll get out of this cul-de-sac of religion and government and the New Age movement. A different reality can be spoken into existence by us if and only if we care enough to learn the truth and then develop the courage and the will to defend it at all costs, and we'll shatter all of the illusions that hold us back. And we'll create a new world, a true new world order of light and justice and freedom. A different reality can be spoken into existence by us if we care to learn that truth. And when we do that, ladies and gentlemen, and only when we do that, when we step into that sacred union, then we will free our minds. And in doing so, we will break our chains. Thank you very much.
All right. I hope you all really enjoyed that watch along here on Occult Priestess's channel on a Catterday night. Meow, meow. And so we had some good comments that I wanted to get to in the chat. And if you do have something to say, now would be a good time to say it. And if you'd like to tip me, now would be a good time to tip me too. Thank you. So I'm going over to the chat. Yeah. So a little bit earlier, Claire said, The Secret is still playing everywhere for free. And I've seen that quite a bit. And Aaron's energy, they also leave out the heart. One must feel and have compassion in order to manifest. So they're talking about the secret and manifestation, which was based on, I say, crusty croutons, but rosy croutons, Rosicrucianism, but the main principle at the beginning of The Secret is hermetic. So they're just stealing from everyone. But I do believe the lady who made the book in the movie is a Rosicrucian. So the truth is our responsibility for sure. And that's right, Claire. Aaron's energy says, yes, faith and trust in oneself makes the fear disappear. That's really true. And Claire says, reminds me of what I heard Occult Priestess say once. Who would I be if I always got my way? So you take that home with you. It's a way homer. You get it on the way home. I'm already home, Glenn. And that's from Raising Arizona, which we had a clip of tonight. I just had to put it in there. And then Aaron's energy is doing a quote from Bryant McGill. Whatever makes you uncomfortable is your biggest opportunity for growth. And that's true. And for a long time, I learned that in my social circles. That's where I was applying it most of the time. Was like, does this person make me uncomfortable? Is this situation uncomfortable? And is it me? Is it them? Is it circumstance? And I could figure all that out and then play the game to win. Like Mark Passio was saying, most people are playing the game to lose, but we play the game to win. And 17 people watching, please thumbs up. And tip Occult Priestess if you can, if you care. Love that. And it may be later this evening that you will find me gaming. So might have a late night Saturday hangout. That would be fun. And so if you had anything important to say in the chat, go ahead and tell me now. I am working on the title of a video, which will be a watch along, is The Stranger Things of Kate Bush. And so I'm really excited to put that together for you. And I hope we'll have it next weekend. We'll see. But I have committed myself to being here for you and opening this space, opening this chat for you every Saturday. It is my hope and my wish that we will make friends and we will build community through this open door, this space that I'm holding for everyone. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. Claire says, Claire, say hello to your family for me. And Aaron, it's great to see you hanging out. And I thank the other, 15 people in the chat for being here this evening. So I don't have a fancy outro, just that check it out. I might be on later tonight, again, opening the space so people can meet each other and talk. All right, so thanks for joining me. Until next time, this has been Occult Priestess, and you can find me at occultpriestess.com. I am an amazing psychic, and actually, I almost never brag about that, but I am fabulous. So you should give me a try. It's just that I do so much stuff, I don't know what to promote, but I'm really into helping people on a personal level to know thyself. And if we can't know anything, then we definitely can't know ourselves. So come over to the other side, come over to the light side, get out of the new age, science fiction, problematic places, and come to the classical, ancient teachings of the soul with people like me, Mark, and Freeman TV. So we're doing it all here for you guys, bringing it to you through the rock fin. I'll see you next week. Not tonight, if you guys are into it, but I'll see you next week, if not sooner. Blessings and namaste. Thank you, Hermes. Thanking the operator. And thank you, guys. I'm so glad you're friends. Blessings.